we are discussing women work and organizations. Today we will continue with some of the research studies in this area to understand the management perspective. In our last lecture, we have seen that women constitute an important part of the workforce in the organizations today, and perhaps in the future also we will see much greater number in terms of organizational work life. So, today I will share with you the some of the studies which may be interesting to you and which may help you in understanding as a manager that what are the possibilities of looking at the diversity issue and particularly the gender issue at the place of work. So, let us move on to the first study. The present study has made a modest attempt to investigate various aspects of work and family commitment of working mothers. The variables considered in this study are work commitment and family commitment as the dependent variables, and the background, age, education, years of experience, number of children, age of children, type of occupation, and the family profile as some of the variables. As we have understood in our last lecture that women have to play role as a family maker as well as they have the aspiration to become professionals. Yet we have to see how do they make some kind of a matching between the two kinds of roles that they play, because they have a commitment for family and they have a commitment for work. So, for this study we have chosen these variables for managers to understand where do they stand in terms of their work commitment. Okay. So, let us move on. The type of family, the size of family, the family income, the quality of family life and work related variables, that is the quality of work life, job satisfaction, number of hours of work, the time schedule, the extension of work activities at home, and psychosocial variables which might result into role strain and might affect the well-being are the independent variables for this study. So, do you get this idea? I think in the in our analysis on the methodology we have discussed that how do we design a survey study, and so here we are trying to understand that how work commitment and family commitment, these are the factors which are related to the work and organizational life of women. So, we will see how are they related. Okay. So, the sample of this study, we have drawn the sample of this study from working mothers of the students of various Delhi public school, and data were collected from 455 working mothers. We have used using questionnaire method. Are you getting that? That these children are studying, and we went to these schools and then looked at how many children have working mothers, and then we collected data from them. And so, the analysis is based on these working mothers. The study reveals that there is negative relationship between work commitment and family commitment. You understand the negative relationship, work commitment and family commitment. The study also suggests that age of children, educational qualifications, occupations, the residents' income, respondents' income, sorry, not residents, respondents' income and the year of how many years of job experience they have are significantly related to the work commitment of the professional women employees. Okay. Then the study also suggests that there is significant relationship between background variables and family commitment and work commitment. However, age of children, which normally believed should be related to the work commitment variable, did not show much significance, significant relationship in this study. So, the age of children does not support the proposed analysis. Okay. That means, if a woman is committed to her work, then she will perhaps try to stretch herself. She might have role strain, yet she will perform to the best of her ability. So, the analysis also reveals that there is positive relationship between work related variables and work commitment. Apart from a number of working hours, the number of working hours, all other work related variables considered, which are like quality of work life, job satisfaction, work schedule and extra number of hours devoted to work, appear to be significantly related to work commitment. They are the determinants of work commitment. Perhaps this will be true. Also, if we make the analysis of men. So, what we are trying to say that this does not appear anything different in terms of women as the work organizers and work performers. This research study on psychosocial variables suggests that these are positively related to work commitment and family commitment. So, the perception of role strain, when we are talking about psychosocial variables, we are talking about variables like role strain is found positively related to work commitment. Another psychosocial variable is the perception of well-being. That means, your perception of well-being, okay, very subjective though, but that has an impact on what you are going to do. However, well-being is not related to work commitment, and which of course we did not expect. As I said short while ago, that it is a subjective feeling and it will have an impact on your work commitment, but we did not find it that way. Role strain is trying to explain that we actually play many roles. So, at one particular point of time, you are playing many roles. One role in the family, the role of a mother or a sister or wife, and you are also playing another role at the place of work as a worker, as a co-worker, as a manager, as a supervisor or an administrator. So, we are playing many roles at the same time, and if we are committed, there is a possibility that there may be role strain. And as you know that there are many ways through which we are trying to resolve our role conflict. There are number of ways. So, the very good example of role strain and role conflict actually emerges from the studies of working women, because they have to sometimes make some kind of a adjustment. Okay. Even though everyone has to do that sometimes, but in case of women, because of the family responsibilities, it may be slightly more than men. So, the background variables, family variables, psychosocial variables and work related variables and the family commitment are the predictors of work commitment of the respondents. We also try to use a regression analysis to find out whether work commitment could be predicted through certain variables, and we found that yes, work commitment of women professionals could be predicted through their family variables, background variables, certain psychosocial variables and certain work related variables. So, that gives us an idea that when we are looking at women at the place of work, whether you are yourself a women manager or you are yourself a manager and you have some subordinates or some other co-workers, okay, we can look into the whole management strategy keeping in mind the scenario of work commitment. So, some guidelines are coming from these research studies. So, family commitment predictors also we try to look at, because we are trying to look at the dual aspects of commitment, the family and the work, and we know that for women both are equally important, some kind of a balance has to be made. So, we also try to look at the family commitment, and the family commitment analysis revealed that we have taken here background variables and the work commitment variables, and so observed that the role strain, work commitment and having children are the only variables which were found to be significant predictors of the family commitment. So, if you have young children, you have many children, perhaps sometimes the family commitment is more, it may be it is more because you have the responsibility for that commitment or the situational demands are such. So, we have to see that at what point of time we are looking at women workers. Okay. So, certain years in their lives you may see that the family commitment has to be little more than perhaps what the management might expect. But then management has to look into that and design strategies, because once they are taking this responsibility, this is also a responsibility for the society. So, because these young children, those who are growing, women are actually doing a lot for the social and the national development, bringing up the future generation. Okay. That is why in many other countries there have been laws. For example, the laws are like the after maternity leave. Okay. Somewhere it's 3 months leave one could get, somewhere 6 months leave one could get. In some countries one could get even leave up to 5 years without any effect on your seniority. So, once your child starts going to school, perhaps you could go back to work. So, this depends, and that is from the point of view of national development, because growing children and their childhood is so important, they need mother at that time. So, if there are some policies which take this into consideration, then perhaps we can have the advantage of the brilliant intellect, creativity and perhaps the qualities of women once they are free from some of those responsibilities of family. And the organizations and managers have to look into this kind of a design. But many a time women have to undergo role strain because they have to join their duties, and that is the rule. And that is the rule because we have not looked into the larger perspective of the issue. Okay. So, that was the first study I wanted to share with you. Now, the second study I am going to talk to you about empowerment of women. Empowerment of women is an important aspect when we are looking at women work and organizations. So, first when I give you some analysis and some data, let me first talk to you about the process of empowerment, which once again I will be discussing in my chapter on motivation in general about empowerment. But let me just talk to you about empowerment right now to make you understand the empowerment of women. The process of empowerment refers to a process through which people become strong enough to participate from within and share the control of influence, events and institutions which affect their lives. I have taken this from one of the references given here. You can find the list of the full reference in my list of references and bibliography at the end. So, the term empowerment is widely used in the development literature to refer to a process by which marginalized groups recognize their powerlessness and address deprivations and discriminations in their individual capacities as well as through collective bargaining. This is in general empowerment, but I am discussing with you empowerment of women at the place of work. So, so my analysis is going to be that, but before that I am trying to give you some conceptual clarity to you. So, another one I am trying to give you by Anthony. When empowerment is applied to women as a group, it implies the process by which women as a group confront and overcome subordination and discrimination in all spheres of life. All spheres of life in general, we are discussing the working life, working at the in an organization. Another definition I am bringing from Professor Reddy's writings. Women's empowerment is defined as the ability to direct and contest one's own life. Hence, the theoretical engagements concerning women's empowerment deal with the causes of subordination on the one hand and the structural and attitudinal changes through their rights, assertions and the collective bargaining that can facilitate empowerment on the other. So, this is also explained as self-generated exercising of judgment. Some authors say, for example, Steinberg has said, giving authority to make everyday decisions. Then Dodd and his colleague, they have said to develop problem solving capacities in people at these levels. So, when we are looking at the process of empowerment, is it some of the theoretical analysis I have given you. So, some of the definitions of empowerment I was trying to share with you. So, when we look at the process of empowerment, obviously we are looking at empowerment in different spheres, and some the list here I am trying to put before you is empowerment. Some of the factors are economically productive in fact, employment security, collective action, social security, shared knowledge, reciprocity, trust. These are some of the factors of empowerment of anyone, not only women. Okay. So, but we are talking about women's empowerment at the place of work in today's lecture. So, this list actually we are trying to discuss in that context. Also, some other authors have given us few other explanations, and they are saying that voicing the silence, owning one's own vision, facilitating transformation from subject to object, creating autonomy and raising self-esteem. These are the issues of empowerment, and so obviously manager has to create a climate where such opportunities are given to women. So, there is yet another micro level concept of empowerment. We can call that as the psychological empowerment, which is defined as a motivational construct manifested in 4 cognitive meaning: competence, self-determination and impact. And so, we come to a study, this is a study on empowerment, that is the second study. Here what we find that the empowerment of women is explained in terms of their perception. And so, in this study the self evaluation of their work. You would recollect in our last lecture we were talking about that how women perceive their work and how many of them would like to work because of what reasons and what is their self perception. How many of them perceive themselves as good performers, how many of them perceive themselves as poor performers, and so on. So, in this study we have tried to collect data on say for example, in this table I am trying to give you an idea about the self evaluation of their work and how many people evaluate their work in terms of what, in terms of how many percent people have evaluated in terms of some of these variables. Okay. So, here I have written the percentages, and you can see that we have given them some of these perception. So, we gave them a questionnaire and then try to find out how many of them perceive themselves as the performer in terms of what, and then we have calculated the percentage. Similarly, in this one we have talked about the satisfaction issue, and we have looked at the issues like career development and the happy family life and what gives them the most satisfaction. Okay. So, so here you can see that the aspects that we have included here. Okay. Should I go slowly or am I going very fast? These are some of the aspects and these are the percentages that we could find, okay, in terms of their their perception of satisfaction. Okay. So, in empowerment we are trying to link these aspects with the empowerment at the place of work, and here there is their self perception and overall their perception we are talking about. So, satisfaction in professional life is the third aspect that we are discussing, and here what we are trying to look at this the professional life satisfaction We have given them certain situations, okay, and how many people are are satisfied or not satisfied. Okay. So, in some cases of course, there is no reply also, okay, but in whatever cases we have got the replies, okay, we have tried to put that in terms of the percentages here. Okay. You can view that these are data from one of the survey studies, one of the survey study of the working professionals in organizations, some of the organizations in and around Delhi. Okay. So, the next after satisfaction of professional life, see if there is a question for you, what are the factors which will give satisfaction to professional life to women, will you be able to answer that question based on this survey? Okay. And perhaps you can add something more based on this. And here again reasons for women and working. Okay. So, here we have tried to give you the reasons, these are some of the reasons. Okay. You can see that what are the reasons, and here are the percentages. Okay. I am not going through each and every percent for every reason, because then perhaps we will need more time for discussing each one, but this gives you an idea about how women perceive their overall life and work life. And then nature of present job of women architects. If you would recollect, I was talking to you in the last lecture that I had conducted a study which was sponsored by the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. This was about the career occupational choices of women with science and technology education, and in that my sample were also the architects and engineers and doctors. And here is a study, the part of that study. Here we found that how many women are working in which profession. Okay. For example, designing and production and consultancy and all that, the architects of Delhi. And then the similar data that here we are trying to give you about the nature of work, what type of work the science and technology graduates and the engineers and professionals, women, how are they working. So, these are this is the scenario of how they are working. This is the data which I have collected from my study. If you recollect in the last lecture data that I was trying to share with you, that data is a secondary data which I picked up from some reports to give you an idea about, and that was those were the massive data of the social data, and I can say that is data which is relatively few years old, but this is not very old, this only current data which we have collected with the help of DST. Okay. So, then we move on to the current management responsibility and that they take, women take. You can see that lower level, middle level and higher level. Okay. Generally what we are seeing that that at the highest level very few women are working. We were discussing this in our last lecture, and you can see that at the highest level very few percent women are working. So, this brings us to a question, why so few women are at the higher level, and generally they are at the quite a few are there at the lowest level. So, this is one of the managerial management perspective question one has to look into. Then the attitude of management towards their respondents. Okay, here you can see that they have tried to give us, this is the perception of women on technologists, scientists, and they have given us idea that how many of them feel that they are friendly, they are good, how many feel are not very satisfied, how many of them are not very clear about it, and some of them also didn't want to actually reply this question. So, here this table gives you an idea about how women perceive themselves. And then in the empowerment of women, we are also looking at yet another study. So, these were some of the data that we have collected for a study of women scientists and engineers, and this is yet another study that we are discussing. In this study, 321 Indian middle level managers have been made to find out whether male and female managers differ significantly in empowering leadership perception. We will be doing leadership as one of the topics, and in fact, we will also be discussing empowering leadership as one of the aspects of leadership in the when we are doing leadership. Right now, let me just share with you that this is a study on the perception of women towards empowering leadership, and we have tried to analyze the gender differences here, and we find that the mean value of the male managers is 1.7, and the for women managers it is 2.8. This mean difference is statistically significant, and managers with empowering leadership attitude have positive egalitarian attitude. That is yet another finding of our this study, and so the attitude of managers, that is very important. Okay. So, attitude of managers towards overall society and the perception, that is again very important. And gender egalitarian attitude has been emphasized by number of authors, and here we find that King and Jung, he has defined the gender egalitarianism attitude as one which does not have stereotype about the capacities, characteristics and roles of men and women according to gender. Okay. These are free from prejudice against women. That is why this was one aspect we had taken for this particular study also, to give you an idea about women at the place of work. So, that does not accept or adopt discriminatory behavior and against women's rights, human rights, and recognizes the necessity of institutions and policies to correct them. So, management has to actually look into these and have to correct them wherever possible, rather than just ignoring them, or like some organizations, they do not like to hire women because they say that there are practical problems with women, and so we won't we rather not hire women. Okay. Well, I am not discussing some of these practical problems. Maybe if any time we undertake some project and we will find that out for ourselves as to why some of the organizations, they will not like to hire women. Okay. So, maybe if possibility is there, or You can start looking for a research project like that and conduct a study and let us know what are the results. Okay. So, this variable is measured by the we measured that by the gender egalitarianism attitude questionnaire, and so the results whatever we have discussed or whatever we are discussing are related to this particular aspect. So, the questionnaire measured the attitude in various settings, that is in society, home and professions, and we found that at least some of the dimensions, the capacities and roles, the equality policies, typical occupation, the male suppose countedness, some of these factors are important. The reliability of this scale is calculated on the sample of this given study, which was quite reasonably all right, 0.714, and then the correlation coefficient between the perception of empowering leadership style and gender egalitarianism is 0.524. So, this study also suggests that there is an urgent need for changing attitude of members of our society and organizations. This study that is the result of my survey, the second survey on empowerment. And so, the instrument developed by the author, by us, okay, author when I say us, okay, is about the empowering leadership style. And in fact, both the research studies suggest need for the paradigm shift to bring about the empowerment of women, including the participative culture. So, we actually need paradigm shift so far as women and work, women and work are considered in organizations of today. We are talking about organizations in the third millennium, and we can't look back whatever happened in the past and that has to be repeated or something of that kind. So, we also need the participative culture, work design and job enrichment. We will be discussing these concepts in great details. I will see if my in today's lecture time permits me, I will be discussing these in great details, a little bit more details. Otherwise, each one of this is a topic for us for discussion in this whole course. So, from participative design, we come to the work design and the job enrichment, welfare measures, hygiene factors in the work and the living environment, effective communication, human capital optimization, and some of these factors. So, if I look at some of these factors, let me just go back to some of these factors. Let me go back to some of these factors. Okay. So, we are discussing some of the aspects which I am repeating again, because I have just given you the points. Let me talk to you about work design and job enrichment. Job enrichment is a concept introduced by some of the authors, trying to say that job is enriching if it has some of the qualities like challenge, autonomy, variety, quality, feedback and so on. And so, when we are trying to look at the work design and enrichment aspect of life at work for women particularly for women, then we have to look at that how much challenge the work gives to women, how much variety it gives to them, the kind of equality and kind of feedback and so on. So, there are number of aspects of work design, job enrichment being one important aspect. So, when we are looking at the gender issue at the place of work, we have to look at the aspects of work design for women. Then the welfare measures. For in fact, for all employees we need welfare measures, but especially for gender, the welfare measures, there are number of welfare measures which are the gender related welfare measures, which may be different for women at the place of work. Some of the measures we can say, for example, if we have many women workers, then we perhaps need a creche, because small children are there, or the school, the kindergarten school has to be very close nearby, or there has to be a dispensary and so on. We will come to the health issues just in a short while from now. See, one of the, if I recollect, one of the industries I had gone to collect data, and that time my objective was to collect data as to how many industries employ women at what level and for doing what kind of a job, etc. So, basically that was about the status of women in Indian industries. So, when I approached the industries, well, unfortunately many industries did not give me appointment, and many industries did not want to share that data with me. Very few were forthcoming. So, so I was really surprised that why was that. Some of them thought, that I was not really, I was sort of wasting their working time or something of that kind. That of course happens whenever we are doing data collection from industries. So, sometimes that might happen. So, the welfare measures need to be looked into. Hygiene factors in the work, in fact, there is an error here in the work and living environment. So, the hygiene factors, well, we have certain laws about also keeping upkeep of the organization, but especially for women's, the restroom and the other cleanliness and other hygiene factors must be there. Then the communication, there has to be a very open, clear climate for effective communication. Okay. Sometimes the communication is so closed that people do not feel very free at the place of work. So, even this becomes very important factor. Then the optimization of human capital. We have to see how to optimize the human capital in terms of gender for the best use of the organization. Yeah. So, we have to optimize this aspect also. This brings me to one writing which I was just reading something, and I found Dr. Karan Singh's writing, where he said that we need the courage to think globally, to break away from traditional paradigms and plunge boldly into the future. This is about, of course, the national development, but let me take his writing as one of the guiding forces also when we are talking about women, work and organizations. So, when see, this is the global scenario that we have to look into, and we have to think globally. So, we can translate that into think globally in terms of women, and work in Indian organizations. We have to break away from the traditional paradigms. So, let us try to break away from the traditional paradigms about women and work in Indian organizations and plunge boldly into future. If you recollect, last lecture I was giving you an idea about, see, the new jobs like call center jobs coming up, where you will find that women are the major group of workforce in the call centers. Okay. Similarly, I went to some of the companies, for example, when I went to one of the motor manufacturers and motor winding company, and you will find that women are doing the motor winding work there. There are certain, as we were discussing in our last lecture, there are certain jobs for which we do need skills of women, and we do need to employ women because of their perhaps psychological makeup or their expertise. They are best fitted for that particular job. Okay. So, we have to plunge into our future boldly, and so this boldness has also to come by employing women as our one of the we can say the equal partners and the efficient partners in our organizations, rather than having that background that Indian tradition says that women are in lower in hierarchy or something of that kind. Okay. So, these strategies will result into better quality of life for women, and in turn for organizations, in turn for the families, and in turn for the whole nation. Okay. So, there is nothing very special that by doing so you are just giving better quality of life only to women, because that percolates down, it goes sort of up and it spreads, okay, and it makes a very healthy society. And that is why the whole paradigm of women work and organization needs a real serious rethink and change. And so, we can actually offer better overall quality management for society and finding results into greater empowerment and development of women. We were trying to look at the empowerment and development of women, the quality of work life for them, and in turn they being the best some of the best workforce, and so the design of organizations should be such where we can really employ women fruitfully. We must so mobilize our inner and outer resources that we begin very consciously to build a new world in this in the 21st century. And with these discussions, I am now going to give you an overall gist of what we have done in our 2 lectures on women, work and organizations. First, we were talking about women, work and organizations, and why do we really need this topic in a course in management. We began with some of those aspects. Then we moved on to talk about the theorizings. There are various philosophies, and we tried to look into various philosophies in terms of women, work and organizations. Then we moved on to talk about the characteristics of women at the place of work and some of the qualities in which women are good, and some sort of a comparison of gender. Then we moved on to look into the data that is available to us from the secondary sources, and I was trying to share with you the women in which kind of sector they are working, how many women, and the kind of education that they have from the secondary sources, to give us an understanding that how women work in organizations have to be looked into. And then the next phase of, so all this analysis gave us some idea about women work and organizations, and how do we really design these strategies for better optimization of workforce development. And then we looked at some of the research studies. In the research studies that we were looking at, we tried to look at studies on women, family commitment and work commitment, and then try to see that there are some apprehensions and people think it in a different way, but in our research study we found different explanations for women work and work commitment and family commitment. And so we try to give the analysis from that point of view to see that how best we can perhaps design strategy for women's quality of work, optimization of energy and utilization of their talent. Then we moved on to talk about empowerment of women, because the studies and as some of the surveys and the points of views have shown that we still need to do a lot for women, and that is why we talked about empowerment. In empowerment, a lot of studies I tried to quote, and some of the definitions of empowerment also I tried to bring in, and then the analysis of one of the DST projects that I had done. So, we came to know from that project also how perception of women that differs, and how we still have some kind of a glass ceiling, some kind, because when we find that women are, more number of women are at the lower level and less number of women are at the highest level, looks like some kind of a glass ceiling. All of you understand the concept of glass ceiling. I am sure you have heard about this. When in the organization you do not have the opportunity of progression, okay, because of that ceiling, which we will call broadly as a glass ceiling concept. So, glass ceiling still is there in many organizations. So, that arising say out of the analysis of that data, that reflection is there. And so, from this analysis we have finally tried to conclude that we need to redesign work, we need to give better opportunities for enrichment, we need to give them few other aspects, okay, as other redesign strategies. So, let us now move on. We will be moving on to our next section on management, and again perhaps we will bring many references to women work and organizations. So, I close here.